Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. What we're working on today here is a 2014 Toyota Highlander, and we're going to be putting shocks and struts all the way around it. Usually we end up doing one end or the other for price concerns, but I'll show you as we go along what we're doing and why. Customer opted for this, so this isn't anything we tried to sell or anything like that. Honestly, we don't sell anything. But let's get into it. All right, so as you can see, there's no leakage or anything going on with the struts up here. The bellows is kind of shredded, but no big deal. What is going on is this plunger goes down through here. It's got a disc on the bottom side of it that pushes through there and dampens the shock. It is binding up inside of this case. So it's riding like a log wagon going down the highway. Every time it hit a bump, it jumped the car up instead of flexing. Part of the time it'd lock up. Up here, it's working fine, but at ride height, it was catching when it went past a certain place. And these shocks back here, customers decided since we're doing the front, we'd better just do the back. And grabbing at it, I don't feel any oil here, but like I said, customer request. Now when it comes to suspension components, as far as your struts go, don't replace just one. I mean, if you're doing a warranty and it's almost brand new, for some reason it's gone bad, yeah, you can get away with it. But if you do one strut, then you're going to have issues with it pulling. When it jounces, it's going to dive one way because they're different ages. They might, if they're different brands, they'll do stuff. Don't ever replace just one strut. As a rule on the front, as a guideline on the back. The stuff on the back here, customer just wants everything new because of this strut right here locking up while you're going down the road. The other one's the same age anyway. One of them went bad, the other one's probably going to go bad too. So we're going to go all the way around on this thing. Let's get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and knock out these shocks in the back because just a bolt on top and on the bottom. So shouldn't be any big deal. You want to support the suspension in the back when you're doing this. All this stuff, it should stay up. It shouldn't have a problem, but sometimes they do. So I always support the suspension up with a transmission jack while I'm doing this, just to be safe. I got this supported and I'm taking just a little bit of weight off of it. 17 millimeter on the top. Welded on the back side. 17 millimeter head and a 17 millimeter nut on the bottom. Oh! Ah! And they like it. Oh my God. Well, the nut's coming off, but the bolt is stuck in the thimble. See them 5-minute jobs? This is how a 5-minute job can turn into an hour. Now what it is, the threads don't want to go through the thimble, That's the rubber mounted bushing inside this shock. Which is not uncommon, but usually they're giving problems, and this one doesn't just really give problems, it just kind of stops. I think what's going on is the end of the thimble is mushroomed in, kinked. Mushroom and then driving it out and trying to open it back up. The right way to do it would be to remove the bolt and then fix it. You have to remove the bolt before you can do that. So here's where we are. Open it up down there a little bit. I don't know why that part of it is bending. Our bolt is now ruined. Oh boy. There's no rebound to that. Or barely. We did jounce the vehicle when we were checking it. Here's where it was trying to screw up that knot right there. And it just took the threads off the bolt as it came out, but you gotta get the bolt out first before you can do anything. See, it just stripped the threads off the bolt, the act of getting it out. You had to get this out of there before you could go one step further, so we're gonna have to go find a new bolt, which I don't think that'll be a big deal, but it might be different than stock. You know, that's why I say I just go along and get whatever tools I need as I go along, because things change. Somebody else has had to do something and change it. It might not have the same size head. You know, you got to think about that. That's why we have so many tools. We don't know what we're going to need on any job, even though it's supposed to be standard. Okay, I've got me another bolt out of our bolt bin over there. It's going to be 18 head and 18 nut, which the other one was 17. That's what we run into a lot anyway. You just have to make sure that it's a comparable grade bolt to what you took out. So we're going to go back together with this. Now, of course, I turned my gun down on power. That's why you saw me hammering on it, so that I don't over torque stuff. Know your air pressure, know your gun. You can get away with not torquing things with a wrench, unless it's a lug nut, then you want to torque it anyway. We're going to repeat the procedure on the other side, but hopefully not repeat the experience of fighting this thing. Remember when I said I hope I didn't repeat the experience? Well, look at that. At least this bracket comes off, and I'll be able to take this off, do something on the backside here, at least get this out of here and fight it on outside the vehicle. But this blows flat rate completely away. I was pushing it with the other side. Now I'm not going to make any money on it. I still got to do the job. Now, as bad as this is, this nut is not actually very well attached to this. It's supposed to be bonded back here. This one is as well. See, it's supposed to be bonded on that there, but the bolt being stuck like it was and like it is here, I don't think that's going to be much of a chore. I can just bust this loose and vibrate on it, get it knocked out. Having this part removable will save my butt. Unfortunately, them come off, you know. Yes, penetrating oil. I shot penetrating oil on it. And that problem there where it twisted off, penetrating oil would never have touched it. You would have to wait for it to penetrate down in there, you know, and maybe next month it'll come loose. He's got to take a trip. He has to have this thing back tomorrow. There is no tomorrow for me. I have to have it done today. When you have an appointment, that's what you expect as a customer. And this is the fight we run into. Yeah, I know I'm complaining and I'm a crybaby, but you're not the one doing it, I am. So I'm kind of griping right now. All right, I got that thing out after a short delay. I had to search a little bit to find a bolt that was the exact right length, because you have to worry about depth right here. But we're ready to go back together now. Okay, now we're working on the front end. Always grab your stabilizer link there, give it a shake, make sure it's not loose, because you got one end loose when you're doing these, so you can cut the time in half or eliminate it all together if you're putting these on there at the same time. Always check this. Besides that, the customer will end up with a rattle later, and you've already done part of it, the most expensive part. Why didn't you do this at the same time? We got the ABS line right here. Check your brake hoses while you're here. Make sure they're not cracked up or anything. Everything else looks good. The wire is all locked in its place. So I'm going to clean up this and probably chase the thread a little bit and shoot some Panther Piss on there so that it comes off easy. And then I'll take my level and check the camber on this so that we put it back in the exact same spot. Most of the time the adjustment is not here in the knuckle, but I always check it anyway because there's going to be a degree or so of movement here. So you always want to put it back exactly like you had it. And even if they don't get it aligned until they get new tires next time, it's something to do. It saves them money in the long run. Okay, I have decided that this is no longer going to be a start to finish how-to video. With the problems that I had on the back end and what I'm running into now, every single thing on this thing is a fight now. I can't cut enough out of my video to make it coherent so that a do-it-yourselfer can do this. This is not jobs that do-it-yourselfers can do, not without wrecking a whole bunch of stuff. Just to show you this, if this will focus. Focus. There. Oh, for Christ's sake. See how that nut is loose on the shaft? Well, look at this. This is rounded out completely. Nothing holds in it. The original size didn't even try. I mean, it just, as soon as I hit the trigger, it just spun. So I drove in a standard, which was a little bit bigger, and it just spun. So I drove in a Torx, which is a little bit bigger, and it grabs onto the corners. And it worked back and forth a little bit, and then it just spun. And it is so loose that, as you can see, I can wiggle the nut, but this won't hold enough to spin the nut off. That is it for this being a how-to video. You saw the problems that I had with the back, and now it's starting on the front. Can I just lock vice grips on that and rip it off? Yes, I can. It'll probably ruin the part. There's nothing wrong with the part. And if we put parts on it, that's another $100, $150. So here, I'll show you part of it. Here's this bolt twisted off in the back. That black there is where it was already broken. This is stock. This came from Toyota like this. Or it has not been disturbed since Toyota had done it. So those bolts were just bad. They're replaced now. But yeah, there's half of that bolt that was already gone. That's that black there. That's where it was already broke. The shiny part's where I broke when I hit it with the impact. I will go ahead and get this apart. Most of the time I do get it apart, but it takes a lot of wasted time on my part, and this thing's got to be done tomorrow. So I can't, start and stop the camera. I can't edit enough out on this to make it coherent. So we're going to keep trying. All right, I got it off of there, and it didn't hurt anything. Got these smaller vice grips that are narrower and locked onto the little bit of ridge that was back there, and just kept working it back and forth, zip, 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 until eventually it came off. I kept shooting stuff underneath of it, working it back and forth. Took about 10 minutes. But it's apart, and it's not bad. It didn't spin this to the point that it melted the bushing inside of it. It's just a part of the job. Part of the reason why we hate it. A lot of the replacements have a hex on the back side of here. You just put a wrench on it. You take it off. But they put this itty bitty little hex on the inside, and it strips out. About a half the time it works. If I take all these steps, wire brush it, chase it, do all the kind of stuff. And then half the time it still doesn't work. So yeah, part of it that when you're griping about flat rate's gone, but I'm still going to charge the same. So some of the customers it pays off for. All right, I got this side out now. It went worse than the other side, even though I knew everything I needed. The only thing I eliminated was the walking back and forth for stuff to do it with. This is just, the wetness around here is just the spray that I used to try to penetrate it, because I'd zip it in and spray the outside and zip it out and spray the inside and work it back and forth. But I chased the threads and everything, and it did not want to come off. It just fought me all the way. Okay, I eventually got this all back together. Now, one thing I will say about this model of Highlander, in the Monroe Spectrums, they do not make a quick strut. They don't have an availability for it. So I had to reuse the spring and mount, and I didn't film that because I had a time. These springs are kind of shaped like a football, and you see how wide the gap is between the coils here. That means the spring is very cushy, and they're very hard to compress all the way, so that you can get the tension off of them. And this shock shaft has a flat on it that locks into the mount up there. You want to have everything indexed correctly when you go back together, and it's going to be a fight no matter what. On this particular one, you have to get underneath the wiper cowl to get to the nuts for the strut. It's not a huge deal. A couple of pop pins, and it just snaps all the way across. You don't have to take the wipers off. You can just pop it up a little bit and reach underneath of it and get the nuts off the struts. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the wheels back on this thing, and we're gonna take it out and test drive it. See if it rides better. Test drive went well. Actually, when he left on the test drive, the customer called. So he was kind of in a hurry for it. He came down here. He was very happy with what all we got done. And yes, I asked him, where did this vehicle come from? Did it come from up north? He said it came from Chicago. Okay, there's our rust problem. But I advised him to get new lug nuts when he got tires. He's going to go down and get new tires. He said he tried to get it aligned, and they wouldn't even align it because they said they're going to twist off bolts when they do it. So unfortunately, he's got one that's going to give him problems in the future, but it's going to be a while. That's why I checked on the alignment. They put it all back the same way I had it, and the bubble lined up really good. So this is a failure video, but we can't do failure because he's got to have his vehicle back. So you find a way to make it happen. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. Talk to you later.